joined now by NBC News senior law enforcement and counterterrorism analyst and former New York City Police Commissioner Bill Bratton. Mr. Bratton, first of all, it sounds like police authorities have a lot to work on. They have intact devices, they have stamps, they have addresses. Where do they go from here?
You're correct, as Peter's referenced, that there is a lot to work with here. The investigation will be led by the FBI, New York City, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, so they'll be working in a coordinated fashion. Where they go from here is, one, you've referenced it, the notification. New York City has a shield system that goes out to 30,000 security directors throughout the region. FBI similarly is trying to do that on a nationwide basis, the idea being this is what to look for at this current time. Concern going forward is copycats, certainly. Concern is, are there more of these devices? The issue with Governor Cuomo's office, that may in fact be an envelope without a device that seems to not be clear at the moment. That was referenced earlier. So biggest issue at the moment, certainly, Lester, is fear. There is a phenomenal effort underway by this individual or individuals to create fear. Looking at the targets seems to be potentially politically inspired, which is even more concerning in this election year and at the height of the election season. But fortunately, law enforcement is very good at following up on these things. They are very well coordinated, and I can speak to that for experience from New York City, certainly. And I'm very comfortable we'll get to the bottom of this.
I think we all assume when we drop something in a mailbox or even at a post office that it's largely anonymous. Is that the case, or are there surveillance techniques that might allow them to trace the trail of these packages?
Yes and no. That many post offices have closed-circuit TV, the ability to trace back to points of origin. There's so many ways, DNA potential that they might get off of any of these packages, that if the individual is not wearing gloves as he's assembling the devices, even the devices themselves, the idea of where did the materials that are in that device, where are they sold, are there instructions on the internet for how to make that particular device, social media monitoring. Have there been threats made to these individuals that might lead back to a suspect? There is a myriad of information that can be traced and used by law enforcement, and they will be going in a lot of different directions.
All right, Bill Bratton, good to have you on. I appreciate your expertise. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.